A different future starts with you. That's why GoDaddy does more than help you find a name. You can create, sell, and get found online so any small business can drive change or build an empire. Because old ideas aren't cutting it anymore. This new year, we need a new generation of thinking, your way of thinking. So whatever you have in mind that will help make a different future, find everything you need to get started at GoDaddy.com. Because the future isn't decided yet. It's still ours to win. Start different at GoDaddy.com.
To go to the F1 season 2016.
Yay!
We just cannot wait.
But will the 2016 Formula One season be worth the wait? I really wonder.
Well, not much seems to have changed since last season. New F1 season.
Old F1 problems. I really don't know where to start. There's just too many points to talk about. The one that worries me the most is that of Sauber. The Swiss team have delayed February salaries for their staff, but they confirmed that they will line up on the grid in Melbourne.
F1 teams delaying salaries in the off-season isn't exactly unheard of.
True.
But what's happening is that increasingly the midfield teams are actually asking Bernie to pay them their championship earnings in advance.
Yes, that happens because the car build phase in the winter is when teams need to spend their money the most. They buy raw materials, spare parts, and everything else that they need to put the car in place for the pre-season testing phase.
So despite nearly $100 million budgets, F1 teams are insecure in their business.
Yes, I think the only security that the teams have is that it isn't really easy for someone to buy and start a team in Formula One these days. But otherwise, F1 teams are always running short of money, especially the midfield teams. We all know that they aren't as well paid as the other top teams like Ferrari or Red Bull or now even Renault.
Oh, the old motorsport saying, Kunal, the more the money, the faster you go. Well, that's the trap that the midfielders seem to be falling prey to. They outspend themselves with the hope to finish higher in the Constructors' Championship.
And that hope builds the other hope that they will attract more sponsors and better drivers. The vicious Formula One circle, I tell you. But I really doubt if Bernie wants to fix this.
And in this new season, we might just have the same old F1 problem of a single team and a single driver dominating the sport.
Yes, Ferrari are really trying hard. And most pre-season test stories have been an over-analysis of their lap times, especially that one lap by Kimi Raikkonen on ultra softs.
Do you see a single driver dominating though, yet again?
You know, Lewis Hamilton is a smart fellow. He's balanced his social life in 2015, and he knows that if he wants to win his fourth title, he will have to balance it yet again.
And if Ferrari and the other teams aren't able to find a fix, Mercedes has offered one. So they've recommended a 2% increase in the fuel flow rate for the other teams. So this will basically be a 20 horsepower increase. Wow. Such a shame, no?
And such a sham too.
So the German team made this suggestion when the Power Unit Working Group met a few days ago. You know, Kunal, I am convinced that the name of the working group is a reference to the one problem that dogs F1 the most, every time.
So we've had the overtaking working group, and we all know that overtaking is a problem. We've had the technical working group before this, and we all know how technically complex the sport is. But in my view, Formula One's biggest problem is that of perception. It has long promoted itself as the pinnacle of motorsport. It has also promoted itself as a sport with the world's best teams and most talented drivers. And the sport is now beginning to believe in its own self-created hype.
To think of it, Kunal, aren't engineers too restricted to finding loopholes in an overly regulated sport? The double diffuser, the F-duct, the blow diffuser, etc. I can't remember an innovation on the F1 cars.
The fly squatters. I love those gadgets they use for testing, I tell you.
The other old F1 problem of leadership and lack of direction, well, that showed up yet again. When the FIA approved the new qualifying format, but the FOM said they aren't ready with the software. Do you know what's happening?
No, I don't think anyone knows what's happening. Maybe they'll just toss a coin in Melbourne to decide which format to use.
Well, I think Fernando Alonso has become F1's old problem, pun intended. The sport has failed to give the most complete driver on the grid a competitive car, yet again.
That Formula One has managed to retain him is Formula One's biggest win of this season. And if 2016 is a dud, and if the 2017 regulations are a dud too, he will move on to other racing series.
Formula E, are you listening?
And as strange as it may sound, the Baku circuit organizers have appointed Alonso as their brand ambassador.
The organizers and McLaren, they better fix this race. It would be so odd to have their brand ambassador finish last, or worse, not finish at all.
In that case, Honda will need to fix their engine and the race in Baku.
And again, who better than Alonso to fix races?
Fernando Alonso is still longing for Mercedes. Maybe Formula One should have football-style driver auctions, you know?
Oh, Kunal, be careful. You're adding one more multi-million-dollar expense for the teams.
There's one more old F1 problem that I remembered. The good old and entertaining pit-to-car radio.
There's a new list of banned radio messages for this season. Kimi might not find his way around the Ferrari, but I trust him to find his way around these radio rules and still entertain us.
And if Kimi doesn't, Alonso surely will.
As for Vettel, well, he's yet to name his car in 2016.
I term this as the first world problems in Formula One.
If Formula One doesn't change soon, Kunal, there will be a new problem that the sport could face. That of drivers deflecting to other racing series, on four wheels or on two.
So Fernando Alonso tested Honda's MotoGP bike, and Hamilton finds the two-wheeler sport far more cooler than Formula One.
Imagine this. Formula One's world champion has gone and given a testimony to another competing series. Very confusing signals for motorsport fans.
And in a first, we already have a relatively lesser-known TV presenter, Susie Perry, deflect to MotoGP from Formula One this season. Sign of times to come?
Well, let me tell you about another sign of times to come. Driverless racing cars. It is public knowledge that driverless cars are being tested on the streets as you hear this. Will they find their way to racing tracks too?
And if they do, I promise you that Bernie will find a way to make money there too. Man versus machine racing contest. You know, it will be like those days we played on the video games in our childhood where you competed against a computer.
And imagine if Lewis Hamilton is replaced with a robot. Lesser tantrums for sure.
This and exactly this is probably why he's forayed into music and Hollywood. Alternative career options, I tell you.
And if that's the case, then Max Verstappen will go back to being a regular teenager.
And Nico Rosberg, he could go back to being Britney Spears.
Kunal, back to testing. Did you see the halo concept being tested on Raikkonen's Ferrari? It looked a little odd to me.
Yes, it did look odd, but the way I see it, nothing about a Formula One car isn't odd anyway. The tires are outside the bodywork, something you don't have regularly on the road cars. The racing cars have wings, something not so regular again. And the driver sits in the center. So technically they are just adding to the regular oddness of a Formula One car.
The halo also adds extra advertising space on the car. That too in a very prominent place.
And Raikkonen being the first driver to test it, I wonder if he needs any more distractions on track anyway.
I guess Kimi's just happy to be first at something. But you've got to admit, he is the only driver on the grid who has a natural halo. And I'm not being biased.
Bernie's wish to have Rolex-owning old people to watch the sport has finally come true too. If you thought Bernie was old for Formula One, think again. Channel 4 has brought back Murray Walker, or wait for it, the legendary Murray Walker, on their commentary panel. And guess what? He is all of 92 years of age.
My God. There's also news that Toto Wolff sold his final 5% stake in Williams. Kunal, I bet Susie Wolff has forced him to do this because Williams didn't give her a drive.
And if my sources are right, the sale happened bang on Women's Day.
Ooh.
And of course, amidst all that negativity, I really wonder if Haas is a positive story for Formula One. The All-American Formula One team has done nearly 2,200 kilometers of testing, and there seems some hope that they won't be languishing at the bottom of the timesheets come Melbourne. Till then, stay tuned to the Inside Line Formula One podcast. Thank you for tuning in.
A different future starts with you. That's why GoDaddy does more than help you find a name. You can create, sell, and get found online so any small business can drive change or build an empire. Because old ideas aren't cutting it anymore. This new year, we need a new generation of thinking, your way of thinking. So whatever you have in mind that will help make a different future, find everything you need to get started at GoDaddy.com. Because the future isn't decided yet. It's still ours to win. Start different at GoDaddy.com.